Concluding the list of illustrations, when the exact location had been lost, another was adopted and consecrated, and among the multitude of secret localities, it is just a little surprising to find not only every trifling as well as important event preserved, but also the incidents and personages of parables embodied and provided with a habitation in history, such as the rich man and his house. And there's evidence now that Jerusalem may have been a place where people were even over 70,000 years ago. Same thing with Western Arabia. Stater, page 553. Augustus coin, page 561. The imperial coin of the first Roman emperor, Caesar, who assumed the title of Augustus, which means the Venerable. This title was adopted by all the Caesars until near the downfall of Rome. Jerusalem, page 582. See page 544. The beautiful location of the city is given in this view, which shows the depression of the valley of Kidron, Jehoshaphat, Shaphat, or something, and the height of Tzun, with the very conspicuous site of the temple so placed as to be visible from every direction. Because Tzun can be like a road sign. The dome of the work, now standing over the famous rock, or landmark, said to have been Araunah's threshing floor, can be seen from Kerak beyond the Dead Sea by good eyes without a glass, a distance of 40 miles in a straight line. It is also visible from the summit of Gibeah, northeast of the city. Beautiful for situation the temple on Tzun certainly was, as sung by the sweet singer of Israel. Farthing, page 589. See Herod's Might, page 380. Robinson's Arch, page 596. Edward Robinson, Doctorate of Divinity, which is of New York, has done more to revive a study of the Bible in our day than any other man. His researches in Palestine are the most important work during the last century. This was written in the 1880s, if not since the Crusades, since they have been the direct means of restoring to our knowledge several hundred sites of cities named in the Bible, which had been lost for centuries. He also minutely examined many ruins and rarely failed to bring out some point of historical interest. This arch is the one destroyed by Titus in the destruction of Jerusalem, and the only remains visible above the ground are the few jutting fragments in the wall to the right as shown in the picture. The stones which form the arch are lying on the rock or soil, more than 40 feet below the present surface, the valley having been filled up in some age since 70 of the Common Era to its present level. And 70 of the Common Era, the Bar Kokhba revolution was put down, right? Around then. Half shekel, the shekel, page 603, was first coined by Simon the Maccabee under the authority of Antiochus VII, 139 BCE, and the inscription recorded this and other privileges that the Jews had received from the rulers dating from the first year of Simon's rule, and the first year of Simon, the benefactor of the Jews, high priest. The shekel was struck in silver and in bronze. There are a number of specimens still existing in the museums or in private collections of the coins of the Jews in nearly every age, from the first of Simon to the last of Bar Kokhba, 130 of the Common Era. The half shekel was the regular yearly temple dues from each adult Jew. And see some of the, at least one of the Gospels was after that point. Those who lived in the foreign lands, Greece, Egypt, etc., changed their money into Jewish coin before paying, because sacred money only could be received into the treasury. Because it doesn't have graven images. That was the real rule. The devices on Hebrew coins had references to the productions of the country, and also to their religious history. The bunch of grapes, palm tree, palm branch, and leaves braided called lalub, ears of wheat, cup of manna, vase or jar of oil, baskets of fruit, horns of plenty, the throne or chair of state, the state umbrella, anchor, wreath of olive leaves, temple portico, are all well known on coins now in existence. While they could do their business outside of the temple if there was issues with the graven images on the coins. Table, page 615. The oriental table is what we should call a tea tray. It's generally circular, 5 or 6 feet across, and is used on stool about 16 inches high. The party sits on the divan on one side and on cushions laid on the floor with the other sides all around it. The servants or the host's wife or daughter serve the dishes, usually one at a time. There is a large copper table or tray at Slahiya near Damascus, which has on it the revenue stamp of several Roman emperors, and has been an heirloom in the same tribe, or it may be the same family, for nearly 2,000 years. Nearly every traveler who goes there pays an extra price for a dinner served on this antique table. Gethsemane, page 628. The so-called Garden of Gethsemane is a locality of the Christian monks of Jerusalem, which is placed more for convenience near the city than for any desire to meet the demands of the text and of his historic accuracy. The old olive trees are chief attraction, and are certainly great curiosities, being without doubt many centuries old, and it may be the descendants of some planted in the time of the Crusades. Titus destroyed all trees around Jerusalem during his siege, so that not one was then growing, even if it could have lived so long, is now standing. The garden, or olive press, as some read the original, was probably in some more retired part of the Olivet, away from the public road, and it may be nearer Bethany. The most ancient Christian writers, Eusebius, Adamnanus, mention some such locality as a place of prayer for the faithful. Jerome, having a church built in it. The Kidron Valley, from Akeldama, page 629. The valley of the brook Kidron below Jerusalem is full of gardens, which are supplied with water from Siloam. And in the rainy season, it is really a beautiful spot, but in the hot, dry, and dusty summer, it is almost a desert. In the view, the Mount of Olives rises to the right, and the village of Siloam is at its foot, bordering the edge of the Kidron. Scopas is seen in the distance, and the corner of the temple wall rises high over Ophel, which falls steep down on the west side of the Kidron. Both of these slopes are covered with tombstones, every one of which indicates a dozen graves below, or it may be 100 bodies to each, for this has been a vast cemetery for all devout persons, both Christian and Muslim, and especially Jew, for many ages, and never in greater request than now. It is thought by some that Solomon's idol shrines were built on the site of Siloam, or on the summit behind it, to the west, while others think the high place was more probably on the summit of Olivet. There were also shrines to Moloch, Malach Taus, Shaitan, the peacock angel, cast out of a place. Shaitan, meaning cast out of a place in Avestan. What is it? Is it year 664 or something when this video is released? Or I don't remember at the moment. In the valley of Tophet, or Hedam, where children were offered to this entity in burnt sacrifice. Of course, a lot of that was exaggerated. The Yazidi, anything you do or don't do, it can be part of one's spiritual path to them. This valley with its horrid associations has become the poetic type of hell. I may do more Yazidi material as time goes on here. The Aqsa Mosque, originally the chapel built by the Knights Templars, is in plain view on the temple site, and Tsyun rises high to the east, with its long slope terraced, dotted with orchards and scattering trees, and crowned with the ancient church and mosque called the Tomb of David. While there is no real masajid that is there's no Islamic masajid that is a tomb. There's Husseinias and various other things that people have done, and they have violated the Islamic rulings about putting things over people's graves and all that. But the Tomb of David, everywhere the surface is carpeted with a bright green in the rainy season. Now, if there's a masjid next to it, that's a different story. Anywhere in the world can have that, but we're not supposed to. We're supposed to move the tombs out of the masjid. That's both the Shia and the Sunni narrations point out that everywhere the surface is carpeted with a bright green in the rainy season. The Tyropaean Valley joins the Kidron at the Sloan Pool, and Hedam Valley at En Rogel, where the three become the Wadi Anar, the Valley of Fire, and flow by the old convent of Santa Saba to the Dead Sea. See page 622. The map of Jerusalem, page 636. The various sites named, except Golgotha, are located, according to tradition, are the selection of the monks at Jerusalem. Ekahomo Ark, page 671. Over the Via Dolorosa, Jerusalem, this is called the Ekahomo Arch because of the legend that Pilate exposed Jesus to the multitude at the middle window in the wall over the arch and said, "Behold the man." Pilate's palace may have been near, but there is no proof either of ruin or record as to where it actually was, nor is there any reason to believe that the street called Via Dolorosa, the Way of Grief, is even on the line of the street through which Jesus was led out to Golgotha, and it certainly is not if the true site of Golgotha has been found at the Jeremiah Grotto, northwest of the Damascus Gate. Someone has claimed that the remains there prove that Jesus was somebody with Down syndrome. Of course, they don't say it that way. They say it was miraculous. See, it proves he had no father. No, you're saying he had Down syndrome. See, this is why you can't speculate. Because someone can come in and say, okay, well, we'll accept your findings, but that's not what that finding shows. The streets of the Holy City are almost always frequented by pilgrims from every Christian country, habited in an endless variety of costume. The narrow way is often perilous from the rush of eager, hurrying, loaded men and animals, and is very unsafe after dark from the loose pavement, steep, crooked ways, and the numbers of half-wild dogs whose tooth is against every edible thing. Very few of the streets are named, although the Christians are beginning to apply names to some of the principal ways for their own convenience of description. Or perhaps they just don't know the names. Calvary, page 665. Notice how they skip both the original 666 from the Christian Book of Revelations and the 616, that was the older one, and the 666, which is the later one, right? Calvary, page 665. The question as to the true site of the crucifixion has very much depended on the theories respecting the location of the two more ancient walls of Jerusalem. No one can be quite sure as to the precise location of these walls, and no recent discovery of what are supposed to be the remains can be used to strengthen the claim of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to be located on the site of Calvary. It may argue that the Mary Church built by Helena was on the same site, but cannot determine the actual site selected by Helena was not adopted for convenience rather than fixed by actual knowledge of the ground. It would seem to be a very strange thing that the site of the crucifixion of their master and his burial place should not have been carefully kept to mankind by his followers. We can scarcely imagine Americans of any generation losing knowledge of the grave of Washington, but we may recollect that the followers of Jesus were not superstitious, and that the departure of Jesus from the world was followed by the destruction of Jerusalem, and that the Christians as well as the Jews were dispersed, and that the succeeding centuries so changed the appearance of Jerusalem that now not a spot there is visible which was visible to the eyes of Jesus and his followers. If we take the evangelists as guides, we must be sure that it was not the church of Sepulchre, but probably was the hill of the grotto of Jeremiah. Now, there's no evidence of Christianity or any of its texts before this destruction, so this is all taken on a matter of faith.